At some point in the last 300,000 years, a human being sat alone and felt something they had absolutely no word for. Their partner was gone. Maybe they left. Maybe they died. Maybe the tribe separated and two people who had built everything together were suddenly on opposite sides of a landscape with no way back. And this person, this ancient prehistoric human who had survived predators and ice ages and starvation, sat down and couldn't move. Not because of any physical injury, not because of any visible threat, but because of something invisible happening inside their chest that hurt more than anything they had ever encountered. They didn't know what it was. They didn't know it had a name. They didn't know it would end. They just felt it. And here is the thing. That feeling was identical to yours. The same brain chemistry, the same physical symptoms, the same obsessive replaying of memories, the same hollow feeling where a person used to be. Heartbreak is not a modern invention. It is not a luxury of comfortable people with too much time to think. It is one of the oldest, most universal, most brutally human experiences that has ever existed. And the story of how our ancestors survived it with none of the tools we have today reveals something extraordinary about what human beings actually are. To understand how ancient humans handled heartbreak, you first have to understand what heartbreak actually is, because most people think of it as an emotion, a feeling, something that happens in the heart. It doesn't. It happens in the brain. When two humans form a deep romantic bond, their brains physically change. The reward system, the same system responsible for hunger, thirst, and survival drives, becomes wired around that specific person. Their presence triggers dopamine. Their voice triggers oxytocin. Their smell becomes associated with safety and comfort at a neurological level. In other words, your brain treats the person you love the same way it treats food and water, as something necessary for survival. And when that person disappears, the brain reacts exactly the way it reacts to any other survival emergency. Scientists scanning the brains of people going through heartbreak have found something remarkable. The areas that light up are not the emotional centers, they are the pain centers. The same regions activated by physical injury, by burning, by broken bones. There is even a medical condition called broken heart syndrome, where the emotional shock of losing someone causes the heart muscle to temporarily malfunction. People are hospitalized for it. Some die from it. A real, measurable, physical cardiac event caused entirely by the loss of another person. Your body is not exaggerating when it falls apart after losing someone. It is responding exactly the way 300,000 years of evolution programmed it to respond. Because for ancient humans, losing a bonded partner wasn't just painful, it was genuinely dangerous. Here is something worth sitting with for a moment. Modern humans going through heartbreak have extraordinary advantages that we completely take for granted. We know what heartbreak is. We have a word for it. We have been warned it might happen. We know from experience or from watching others that it ends, that time passes, that the pain eventually becomes manageable. Ancient humans had none of that. To a prehistoric mind with no concept of romantic psychology, the sudden, unexplainable physical pain, the loss of appetite, the inability to sleep, the obsessive thinking about one specific person, the complete loss of motivation to do anything, these symptoms would have been terrifying, completely inexplicable. Imagine experiencing the physical and psychological devastation of heartbreak with absolutely no framework to understand it, no one to tell you it is normal, no reassurance that it ends, no name for what is happening to you. Some anthropologists believe that early spiritual beliefs, the concepts of lost souls, of being possessed, of mysterious illness, were partly shaped by the experience of grief and heartbreak. When your body inexplicably stops working and you have no biological knowledge to explain it, the most rational ancient conclusion was that something invisible had been taken from you, or something dark had entered you. You weren't heartbroken, you were haunted. And in a strange way, that ancient explanation captures something true, because anyone who has been through real heartbreak knows that it does feel like something has been taken. Like a part of you that existed with that person simply doesn't exist anymore. The ancients just didn't have the neuroscience to explain what had actually been lost. So with no therapy, no medication, no understanding of what was happening to them, how did ancient humans actually get through it? The answer starts with something that will sound familiar. They fell apart, completely and entirely. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer societies, the closest living mirror to our ancient ancestors, have documented remarkably consistent responses to romantic loss across completely isolated cultures around the world. Loss of appetite lasting weeks, inability to sleep, withdrawal from the group, Prolonged stillness, sitting alone, staring, loss of motivation for basic survival activities, across cultures that had never contacted each other, across thousands of miles in completely different environments. The response to losing a deeply bonded partner was almost identical everywhere, which tells us something important. These responses are not cultural. They are not learned. They are biological, wired into the human brain at a level so deep that no amount of cultural difference changes them. But ancient humans couldn't stay broken forever, because in the ancient world, a human who stopped eating and withdrew from the group for too long simply didn't survive. So the brain built emergency recovery mechanisms, and they are fascinating. The first mechanism is obsessive thinking. The brain forces you to replay the lost person constantly. Every memory, every detail, every moment together. This sounds like torture, and it is. But the biological purpose is to extract every possible lesson from the loss, to understand what happened, to prevent it from happening again. Your brain replaying your ex at 3 a.m. is not weakness. It is an ancient survival algorithm running a damage assessment. The second mechanism is anger. After the initial collapse, most humans cycle into rage toward the person who left, toward themselves, toward anyone nearby. Anthropologists note this pattern universally across cultures. The anger is the brain forcing re-engagement with survival. Anger requires energy. Anger requires movement. Anger gets you off the cave floor. The third mechanism is social seeking. Humans in pain instinctively move toward other humans. Ancient people who had just lost a partner would have moved closer to the group, seeking physical warmth, shared resources, protection. The instinct to call someone when you are heartbroken is 300,000 years old. And the fourth mechanism, the darkest one, is replacement seeking. The brain, terrified of the survival vulnerability created by partner loss, begins scanning for a replacement almost immediately, often before the grief has even finished. This is why people move on faster than they think they should. This is why rebound relationships exist. Not because humans are shallow, because the ancient brain genuinely cannot afford to leave the survival gap open for long.